My name is Beth Still, and I am a high school social studies teacher entering my 5th year of teaching. In addition to teaching face-to-face classes at a small alternative high school, I also create and teach online social studies classes for the Nebraska Educational Virtual Academy, an online school which offers core courses to students around the panhandle of Nebraska. This is the Civic Center in Gering, Nebraska. I attended a day-long workshop in this building back in February of 2007. My life changed forever that day. Howie spent the day talking about wikis, blogs, photo story, and so many other Web 2.0 tools that my brain was hurting by the end of the day. It took me several days just to even come close to processing everything he had talked about. Howie also spoke that day about becoming the one teacher in 10 who is truly dedicated to making a difference. I decided to take him up on that challenge. In the months immediately following Howie's workshop, I joined the Classroom 2.0 and the NECC NINGS. I was looking to make connections with people ahead of time who were also attending the National Educational Computing Conference in San Antonio. I searched the NING for people who had similar interests as me, and I friended them. In real life, I tend to be somewhat shy and reserved, but I found it incredibly easy to reach out to people online. Some of the people that I friended early on in those networks are still major players in my personal learning network. Perhaps my most significant connection was made with a social studies teacher from Nevada named Corey Plow. We have similar backgrounds, and he was willing to help me learn about Web 2.0 tools. He served as my mentor for several months as I worked to establish my PLN. He invested hours of his own time teaching me how to create a blog, edit a wiki, and share documents within Google. He also introduced me to Twitter, which is now without a doubt the single most important tool I use every day. There are so many tools out there. How do we even know where to begin? We all have our own approach, but I highly recommend finding somebody that can act as a mentor. It can be overwhelming to try to learn these things on your own. Just remember, you do not have to limit yourself to working with someone who lives near you. Using a video conferencing platform, such as Skype or Google Video Chat, or simply by talking on the phone, you can work with anyone in the world. There is nothing that says where you must begin. Just pick something and start exploring. Keep in mind that you're probably going to hit some roadblocks during your journey. You might encounter coworkers who tell you that you are wasting your time, or you might not be fortunate enough to work in a district that supports the adoption of Web 2.0 tools. The biggest obstacle I had to overcome was convincing my district to loosen up the filters to allow access to many of the Web 2.0 tools that I use in my classroom. This was a huge deal because the vast majority, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100%, of the useful information I learned last year came from my personal learning network. I have found it incredibly rewarding and beneficial to have a large PLN. This picture was taken in Washington, D.C. in June of 2009 at EduBloggerCon. Most of the people in this picture are part of my PLN. Over the last year, they have come through for me over and over again. Belonging to a PLN means I no longer feel isolated and alone. I cannot even begin to describe how rewarding it is to learn from these very special people every day. I want to take just a moment to tell you about a very special project involving my PLN. Last spring, I was determined to prove to people that Twitter is a powerful tool that does have true educational value. I came up with a project that I called Send a Newbie to NECC. I picked one person from my PLN who was already using technology in an effective manner in their classroom, but who had never been to the National Educational Computing Conference. I asked people from my PLN to send monetary donations to Richard Byrne, author of the blog Free Tech for Teachers, to Washington, D.C. Within 2 weeks, we raised $750. The founders of VoiceThread heard about the project and decided to donate $700. There was so much interest in the project that I decided to do it again this year. The new newbie for 2010 is Jason Schrage, a middle school social studies teacher from upstate New York. We need to keep in mind that this movement is not about the tools and the technology. It is about reading, writing, sharing, and collaborating. It is about breaking down the walls in a traditional classroom and allowing our students to be students of the world. By allowing them to shift from being passive consumers of information to active prosumers who both produce and consume content, we are giving our students a global voice. The vast majority of students are generating, remixing, and publishing content outside of school. It only makes sense to incorporate these skills into the classroom to allow us to reach them with the tools they already know how to use. Once students begin interacting with people from around the world, there is a shift that seems to take place. They begin taking an interest in things beyond their own communities. I strongly encourage you to use social media in your personal life so you can begin to see how much of an impact it can have on your students.